This is what happens when you watch a show 11 times. Hey everybody, Carla here. Welcome to my fandom vlog where I talk about my favorite fandoms or about fandom in general. And before I say anything else, I just want to warn you, I am fresh off my second dose of the COVID vaccine. I just got it a few hours ago, so if I start feeling weird like halfway through this, probably that. You will probably notice if I go like super low energy halfway through this thing. I don't know what it might happen. Maybe I will start developing my super magnetic magneto powers halfway through this video. You never know. Anyway, just a warning. This video, as I was saying last time, is going to be a video about my favorite things that I have noticed in Young Royals on Netflix. Just little details that I feel people may not have seen, or moments that I feel should get more love from the fandom and yet they don't for some reason, and I'm sitting here like dying every time I see them and and the fandom just doesn't respond. So like, it's one of those things. I don't even know how to title this, honestly, like Young Royals details or something like that. It's just, I don't fancy myself like a sleuth or anything. Like I'm not observant, okay? I'm not like Sherlock Holmes. I don't notice things. That's not me. But as of today, I'm halfway through my 10th rewatch of this show. I actually watched episode 3 this morning, so I'm like halfway through my 10th rewatch of this show, which means I have watched this show nearly 11 times already. Like, that's how obsessed I am. And by the time you've watched a show that many times, you just notice stuff, okay, whether you want it or not. So yeah, I want to just mention some of the things I've noticed, because I don't think a lot of people necessarily are talking about any of these, and I feel like I need to talk about it. You know, like I need to mention it. I don't know how long this is going to be. Like, I started this list back on rewatch like number 3 or something, like ages ago, and I was struggling to get to 10 items on the list, and by rewatch 10 I now have 25 plus an extra. So this might get long, just a warning, but I'm gonna try and make it short, because most of these are really small things, just small details that I want to note. I want to show you. I hope it doesn't take that long, but it's a long list, so we're gonna be here for a while. Just strap in. Alright, just your usual warning, there will be spoilers. I will talk about all 6 episodes of season 1 of Young Royals, and maybe even some speculation as to season 2. So like, for sure there will be spoilers. Don't say I didn't warn you. Really, if this is my 3rd Young Royals video, if you still haven't watched Young Royals and are watching me right now, that's on you. Really, because it's like, why would you do? It's 6 episodes, they're 45-50 minutes each. It's really not a commitment, so please go to Netflix, watch Young Royals, and then come back and watch this video. Everything will make so much more sense if you do things that way, you know, in that order. So yeah, spoilers. You've been warned.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
I'm gonna start with number 1. The first thing, and I didn't notice this until like my 7th rewatch or something, it took a while for me to see this, is that, you know, the scene after the bar fight that Ville has at the beginning of the show. Oh, by the way, I should say, these are probably going to be more or less in order. I will start with the stuff that I saw at the beginning and then go on, you know, so just so you know. But number 1 is that the first scene we see Ville in, right? It's a bar fight, He fights with some dude, gets absolutely beaten up, and is picked up by one of his mother's assistants, I guess. I don't know what she is, PR, something like that, and taken back to the castle, to the palace, right? And when he's in the palace, they have him do like a video, right? He has to like address the nation or whatever about what happened. And before the actual taping of the video, there's a little scene at the beginning where we see him talking with his family. Basically, he starts off with his dad, and his dad is like trying to placate him because Will's like, no, I don't want to do this. And then his mother comes in and starts like messing with him, you know, and telling him you're gonna do this and stuff, and trying to get him to like take his hand out of his mouth and like fix his clothes and whatever. And it's a very small scene. It's just there to set the tone of who Will is, and that he's like really against this whole protocol type thing that they're making him do. But there's a little detail that I noticed like 7 rewatches in, and is that when the queen is fussing over Ville and he's arguing back to her, you can see in the background there's Eric, and you recognize him because he's wearing his, I don't know, I guess that's a uniform, like a military uniform kind of thing, I don't know, but it's the same thing he's wearing later on, right? So I know that it's Eric, even though I think I can only see him from like here up or something, like you can't really see his whole face. One thing I noticed in that moment, like he's standing right behind Christina, he doesn't say anything, he's just standing there, but he's chewing gum. And this is something I find very interesting because we know from the rest of the series that chewing gum is one of the things that Ville does to control his anxiety, right? It's one of the things that he does to like keep the anxiety at bay. It's one of those tics that he has, like running his hands through his hair or like biting his nails and stuff like that. That's what he does when he's feeling anxious, and the gum helps with that, you know? This has been mentioned by like Edwin and Lisa and everybody, like it's been mentioned. And I found it super interesting that in that one scene we can also see Eric chewing gum. And it's kind of amazing to me because I don't think it's the type of gum he's chewing just for funsies, you know? First off, he's in his 20s or nearly 20. I don't know his exact age, honestly, but he's older, so he's not a teenager. He's an adult. We're not prone to like chewing gum all that often. And you know, they're about to do like a live like a live taping video thing, so I wouldn't expect him to like be chewing gum just for fun right before doing this. So I think this might be either where Ville got the idea to chew gum for anxiety, or it might just be something that Eric also does. And I think it's amazing because it's blink and you'll miss it. You like it. Unless you've seen this thing as many times as I have, you probably have not noticed this. But I think it's a really small sign that as much as we love Eric, and you know, he was the perfect crown prince and he was practiced at it, and Ville feels that he was so much better at it, I think Eric might not have been as perfect as we all think he is. I think anxiety might be a thing that runs in the family, honestly. And maybe he doesn't have it as bad as Ville does, because Ville's anxiety is really freaking bad. But he's not like super entirely comfortable in these kinds of situations. He also has a learning curve. And he might not be this person in this pedestal that Ville puts him on. Like, he's only human. He might be anxious too, and it's just never said, but if you pay enough attention, you can see the gum in the background. And it just, like, when I noticed the first time, it was like, poof, I love that. I feel like it brings him even closer to Ville now, and I like him even better, because if he was struggling with this and managed to like get through it enough that people, didn't notice, he might have been some kind of support board for Ville as well, and we don't get enough of the two of them because Eric dies, of course. Rip Eric. But I think it's a nice detail, and I hadn't noticed it, and I don't think many people have noticed it, so I just wanted to point it out. Number 2. This one starts off on like a series of August points that I learned. I learned a lot of things about August on rewatch, honestly. But one of the things that I really got is that most people find it really annoying when August and Felice get together and August is a jealous asshole. Understandably, everybody hates that, and red flag, massive red flag. But what I want to point out is that August has been jealous of Ville and Felice, not just when they got together, but like since her first scene, he's been jealous that Felice might like Ville better. Like, seriously, the first freaking thing we hear about Felice is that Ville went to preschool with her. That comes about because August asks him. He asks how he knows her. And you can just see that he jumps at it. The second Ville says hi, he's just like, oh, hey, how do you know her? My future wife. And it's like, why are you ridiculous? I didn't notice that until before, because at the beginning you just kind of see it, you watch it happen, and then you're like, oh, whatever. And then when you realize what a jealous asshole he is, it makes sense. But few people actually go back and look at it and see this first scene. I think it says a lot about August, because it tells me that it's not really about Felice, It's not that he's so in love with her and can't comprehend the thought of her liking someone else. It's that he's jealous of Ville, and that's it. He cannot fathom the idea of anyone choosing Ville over him just because Ville is a prince at that point. Actually, he's just fucking jealous of Ville. That's it. That's all there is to it. And I didn't realize that until I watched the show again, and I was like, oh wait, yeah, I had totally forgotten about this. So yeah, now you know. And number 3, in that same scene, that is of course the first time that Ville ever sees Simon, and he hears him sing, and it makes Ville smile. And I've been watching this scene over and over and over, and while it's super sweet, and I know a lot of people make it out to be about Simon's looks or his singing, because Ville later does tell us that he liked Simon's singing because, he was singing from the heart or whatever. So it sounds on the surface like it's about his singing, like Ville just liked Simon's singing so much that he like fell for him right then and there, basically. But I've been watching and rewatching this scene, and I don't think it's about Simon's looks or about his singing. I think it's about his confidence, and let me explain what I mean by that. The smile happens right after Vincent interrupts the singing, the solo, because Simone starts singing in a low tone and Vincent is an asshole, which, by the way, can I just point out, I really have like an irrational hatred for Vincent. Like, August is the worst, but at least August has like layers to him, right? Like, I don't like him, but like I can understand a little bit. Vincent is just a pig. Like, every scene he's in, I'm rolling my eyes, and I cannot stand him. Anyway, the point was not about Vincent. The point was that Vincent interrupts Simon's solo, right? To ask him to sing louder. And everybody's pissed off because that's just rude to begin with. And you can sort of see Ville be like, what the fuck, man? But then I think the key moment here is that when Simon starts singing again, he actually starts singing louder. And you can see from his expression that it's not just because, Vincent asked me to sing louder. It's because he doesn't fucking care anymore. You know? Like, he was shy at the beginning, and then after someone humiliated him, he's like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna sing. For real now. And he just goes for it, and it's so powerful, and that's when Ville smiles. And I think it might have been one of those things for Ville where he can't really speak for himself a lot of the time. Like, if you've seen the show, you know that Ville, he tends to like go with the flow, basically, like to go with whatever people want him to do. He does that with August, he does that with the society, he does that with his mother. He just kind of goes because it's probably like easier to just do whatever, you know, to not fight it, I guess. And I think in that moment, Ville was sort of wishing that he could be like Simon, and wishing that he could like show people, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you want me to do this and this and it's horrible? No, fuck that, I'm gonna do what I want. And I think he saw that in Simon in that moment, and I think that's what he liked about it, honestly. Like, this is a guy who is self-assured enough to know that even though these kids are putting him down and mocking him and humiliating him in public in what was supposed to be his moment, it's not about them, it's about him. So he's gonna show them what he's made of, and he's gonna freaking sing his heart out and show them, you know what I mean? And I think that's what prompted him to smile first. And I haven't heard anyone put it quite that way, probably because Ville later says it's about his voice, but I don't think it was about his voice necessarily. Like, Simon asked him if he liked the song, and of course he was going to say, yeah, of course I liked it. But I think it was about more than that, and I think Ville's attraction was about more than that, because Simon definitely is a bit, I mean, he's not like cocky necessarily, but he's a lot more confident than Ville is, a lot more self-assured, and I think Ville wants to emulate that and is attracted to that, and I think that moment kind of clinched it for me. Number 4, I have a lot of stuff from episode 1, by the way. I don't know why. I don't even, like, episode 1 is not my favorite. It's probably like my least favorite episode out of all of them, but I've noticed a lot of things in episode 1 that I didn't notice before. In episode 1, when they're in the classroom and, you know, there's the argument about like tax evasion and welfare scams and whatever, Henry and Walter are like talking about this and just being little shits about it generally. And I think Henry mentions at one point that, you know, his father's estate is like on the verge of like going down or something because high taxes, and it's ridiculous. And Simon talks back to him, and then Henry's like, oh, so what does your father do? And that's when the teacher interrupts. But before you can see the camera move back to Simon, you can actually see in the background that Henry and Walter are sitting at a table, and in the very next table over, there's Felice and Madison. And Felice is glaring at Henry and Walter, both of them, like she just rolls her eyes at them. And I had not noticed that, and I think that's a big hint that Felice is not the entitled rich girl that we all think she is at the beginning. Like, this was episode 1 before really we even knew much about her, right? But she's obviously like not on Henry and Walter's side at this. You know, she can probably see Simon's point a little bit, and Madison also has her hand raised, so I was thinking she was probably going to, you know, also support Simon. So yeah, I think that they're more, both of them are more on Simon's side a little bit. We never get to hear it, but we do get to see her roll her eyes at Henry and Walter for being little dicks. And it's awesome. It's a great moment, and I totally did not notice this until like 4 rewatches in. So number 5 is also from episode 1, and it's just a note that the people that torture Willem for his initiation, I don't think they were even from the school. I don't know why, but the first few times I saw that episode, I thought these people were supposed to be students, but no, actually, Nils refers to them as a gang from somewhere. Like, I guess they were locals or something like that. I just thought it was interesting, like, were they paying these people to torture Willem? Because that's messed up. At least in the frat houses, they do it themselves, you know? And like, what is the security in this school? My god, that some people in a gang can just like walk in and be like, hey, we're gonna torture the prince. The fuck? Seriously? That's messed up. Number 6. This is another August one, because as I said, there are a lot of things about August that I only noticed upon rewatch. And one of them is that I am 100% convinced that August is modeled after Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. Seriously, prove me wrong. I'm 100% convinced of this. I mean, don't even get me started on the whole we could murder someone and nobody would say a word thing. Because, what? But just, okay, maybe not Patrick Bateman specifically, definitely a serial killer of some kind, but like, I think August, when you think about it, just his mannerisms, his style, the constant like working out, the image issues, the drug problem, and just even the way he dresses is like exactly Christian Bale. Like, seriously, every single thing that August wears, save for his school uniform, I guess, but like every single thing, does it not look exactly like something you've seen Christian Bale wearing? Like the fucking turtleneck? Like, seriously, August just has like an entire wardrobe full of Christian Bale's clothes and the one Freddy Krueger jumper. That's all, it's all serial killers. I'm not saying that Christian Bale is a serial killer. He plays one in American Psycho. That's who it reminds me of, but Patrick Bateman in American Psycho doesn't actually wear that many clothes, but the clothes just look, like August's clothes just look like something, each one of them, they look like something Christian Bale would wear. And I don't know if, like, I don't know how on purpose that was. Like, I don't know if that's something Malte did, or the creators did, or the wardrobe department did, or if it's just that Christian Bale just happens to look like a snobby rich kid. I don't know if it was on purpose, but it's just, every time I rewatch the show now, I cannot help but think that way. Like, 100% serial killer, 100% Christian Bale, and the Freddy Krueger jumper. It's just incredible. So that's number 6. Number 7 is also August. It's a reference to the line that he, says, he quotes during the party. He quotes it to Willem when Simon and Sarah arrive at the party, and Willem is very obviously, can I just add, giving Simon an up and down, like, my baby knows what he wants, for sure. Like, he knows it. So, Willem is doing that, and then August doesn't get it, obviously. But then he's like, he quotes, he says something in English, and it stood out to me because he said it in English, and apart from Madison, not many people on the show like talking English all that much, so it stood out to me. And he says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And that first went right over my head, because I am not the type of person who watches these kinds of movies, but that quote, turns out, is from The Godfather. I believe The Godfather Part 2. I can't remember at the moment, but I think it's Part 2.
He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies close.
Because it's not the type of movie that I watch. I've never watched any of the Godfather movies. I'm really not into like mafia movies. It's not my thing. It stood out to me, and so I looked it up. And it's kind of amazing, because it turns out that the context for that line in the movie is when I believe it's Al Pacino's character. I don't know. I don't remember which one he is. Is he Michael Corleone? I think so. I think Vito is the father, right? So Michael Corleone, Al Pacino's character, whatever his name is talking to someone about wanting to off one of his relatives that betrayed him. And I think that gives a whole different connotation to August in this scene, especially considering what he does later. And I looked that up and it gave me chills. Because, yeah, August, you're going to betray and hurt and destroy the life of one of your relatives because you think he's failing you or something. And it's chilling. I had not thought of it that way. I just, assumed, of course, August would be the type to, like, quote The Godfather because he's that kind of dude, I guess. And I know how men get obsessed with that movie. I don't get it personally, but whatever. So, like, at the beginning I didn't think too much of it, but then I looked it up and I was like, whoa, okay, there's a lot more to this than I thought. So just keep in mind that he's not just saying this because Simon just arrived at the party. He's saying, he probably was, but like the writers didn't include it exclusively for that. There's a context to it behind those words, and it's kind of amazing. I think it's definitely foreshadowing, and it's wow. It just made me go, whoa. Okay. Number 8 is also from the party because I find it hilarious that August is all like, we don't usually invite first years, and then you look at the party and the party is like, first years. Full of first years. It's like, what the fuck, August? It's adorable. It's hilarious. I don't know why that made me laugh. But there's so many first years in that party, it's not even like a thing anymore, I guess. Number 9. I am convinced that Stella is of course one of Felice's friends from like the stables, her equestrian friends and stuff. The blonde one, that's Stella. I am convinced that Stella is at the very least, bisexual. I don't know. I think she might have been kissing a dude in one episode. I think it might have been. I thought it might have been her kissing a dude during the party, but then I looked closer and I realized it wasn't her. But then there's that scene in episode 3 when Willem is going to the bathroom or whatever, and he sees a boy and a girl kissing, and he thinks of Simon, and I thought that was Henry and Stella initially. I have lightened that, like I have looked frame by frame at that scene. I have lightened it as much as humanly possible, and I still don't know. I think it's not them, because I think the boy's hair is a little too long for it to be Henry, and I'm not sure about the girl, but she could look like Stella, I guess, but we never really, you can't tell, it's too dark. So I don't know. If anybody has been able to like decode that, let me know. But I thought initially that it might have been Henry and Stella. But honestly, with every rewatch, I grow more and more convinced that Stella is at least bisexual. She seems to be really put off by the whole August trying to hit on Felice thing. She thinks he's a pig, basically. And then when Frederica is like, the other friend, Frederica is like, oh, I think it's romantic, Stella just gets pissed. And Frederica says, Oh, I think she's just jealous. I assume that Frederica meant it as in she's jealous of Felice for having a boy's attention, but I don't think that's what Stella was actually feeling. I think she genuinely just dislikes August and dislikes like the common like mating rituals of rich people, I guess. And also she's like super huggy with Frederica. Like, I know they're roommates, but like during the movie night they're like totally like cuddling. And I don't know, I want to see more representation. Billy cannot be the only like LGBTQ person in this stupid show, okay? It's impossible. And I genuinely don't think that Felice or Sarah are going to be in that boat, but I said last time, I said in my first Young Royals video that I really do ship Stella and Frederica, and I totally do. I'm convinced that Stella is most likely bisexual. I mean, Madison is probably, like, I don't think Madison is picky about about the people she has sex with, honestly. I don't think she's picky, but we don't have as much clarity into that, and I think with Stella it's a little bit more obvious that like she's probably into girls, or at least not exclusively into guys, you know what I mean? Number 10. So this is one I've been thinking about for a long time. Like, I seriously noticed this maybe on my second watch of the show altogether, like way back at the beginning. But it's a little detail about Simon and circlets or crowns that I think is very interesting. During the party, still on episode 1 by the way, during the party, Simon of course is wearing his glow stick circle, you know, like a headband, right, around his head. And it stood out to me because, well, first of all, Ville tells him he's glowing, which is adorable, and a lot of people have made the comparison that it's almost like a halo, it's almost like angelic, and I like that comparison, but for me the meaning is a little bit different. I don't know if you've noticed this, and you might not have if you haven't watched the show as many times as I have, but Simon, apart from the Lucia crowns, which all the first years wear, so I don't count that necessarily, but apart from those, Simon is the only person who we see wearing any kind of circlet-like headgear. And by that I mean Felice does wear a headband once, but a headband is not a circlet. The position is different, right? A circlet goes like this, a headband goes like this, and it's not a full circle either. But Simon is the only one, apart from Felice, the only named character that we actually see wearing anything circular around his head. Not just in the party, but also like he's the only one who wears a beanie. He's the only one who wears a hat. Like no one else. It's freaking late fall by the time it's December by the time the season ends, and nobody wears a beanie. Nobody wears a hat. Just Simon. So like there's something they're trying to tell me. I don't know if they're doing this on purpose. Like, I know it sounds like a reach, but for me it tells me something about Simon. And you can see a couple of people in the background. Like there's another dude at the party that also has the thing, but like not named characters, and I think that's really weird. I don't know, maybe people in Sweden don't like headgear or something. Winter headgear? I don't know. But like Simon is totally the only named character we see with anything circular around his head. And I think that's important because you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of this image. Yep, this image right here is a parallel between Simon and the crown. Those two posters. I love those posters to begin with because they're gorgeous, but like they tell you a story, right? They tell you what this show is about. This show is about Ville, and it's about Ville trying to decide where his allegiance lies, where his heart wants to go, right? Is he going to stick with the crown, and is he going to go with his heart with Simon, right? And I think the halo thing, the glow stick thing, is kind of an allusion to that, because Simon is the only character we see wearing anything crown-like on his head, apart from the Lucia thing, of course, but like the only one. It's very noticeable when you've watched it, when you've watched the show as many times as I have. And I don't know if that was on purpose. Like, I'm aware that it sounds like a total reach. Don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily think they did this on purpose, but I just, it speaks to me, okay? And I needed other people to think about it and and see that parallel as much as I'm seeing him, because Simon is basically a physical representation of Ville's struggle, basically, of following his duty or following his heart. You know, ideally he should want the crown, but Simon has the crown to his heart. That is the cheesiest thing I have ever said in my life. Seriously, I don't know. It's a total reach. I get it. I'm looking too much into it too deeply. I get it. Go ahead. Tell me in the comments that I'm nuts. It's fine. But I just, every time I see it, I cannot help but think about it. That they're telling me Ville should want to be king. He should want the crown. But rather, he wants Simon. And this is the visual representation of that struggle. And I love it. Love it. Number 11. This is funny. Oh, we've moved to episode 2, by the way. Great. This is funny though, because I think a lot of people just don't pay enough attention to this. But like, one of my favorite moments in the show, and I have a lot of favorite moments in the show, but like one of my favorite small moments in the show is the fact that in episode 2 is like just Ville's absolute dejection whenever Simon like stops paying attention to him or like goes away or something. Like his absolutely devastated expressions every time that happens, it never fails to make me laugh. It's so like organic. He's like, Simon says, I'm going, and it's like, but why? It's so perfect. And it happens not once but twice in episode 2. First when they're like, you know, practicing, like doing the rowing practice thing, and August is like drill sergeanting them, and they're like super tired from doing planks and whatever, and then Simon gets up after like having like smiled at Ville. They were smiling at each other like 2 seconds ago, and then he gets up and goes to August, and Ville's expression when he leaves is like it's so funny. And then when they're doing workies, when August again comes in and starts being his usual asshole self towards Simon, and Simon gets fed up with it and leaves, and he just gets up, and Ville's like, oh, but I'll see you at practice tonight, right? And Simon's like, no, I can't make it, and Ville's just like like he's so devastated. I love it. And I think more people should be pointing that out, because I haven't heard enough people talking about these scenes. Number 12. In episode 2, when Ville is texting with Simon, and Simon is like asking him to come out to the soccer game and whatever, the way Ville starts his text chain is curious to me. Like, it just stood out. I don't know why. It took a while because I was looking at the subtitles instead, but then I looked at the actual like Swedish text that we see on the screen. The first thing that Ville says is this thing here that I will put here, and I won't even attempt to pronounce. But basically it says, hi, Ville here. And as much as it sounds like my opening greeting for these things, seriously, does this not remind you of a certain other awkward prince whom we all thought would be like entitled at first, and then turned out to be anything but? Seriously, does no one come to mind? Really? Awkwardest prince of all time? Does it not remind you of Zuko? Come on. Like, When I noticed that, I was like, well, okay, I guess I know now why I love Willis so much. I guess I have a type. It's exactly Zuko. He's basically Zuko, that's all. He's just, oh my god, if he's not modeled after Zuko, I will eat my hat. My hypothetical hat that I don't have, because the only person who wears hats is Simon. Anyway, number 13. This has been noticed by a few people, but I just want to point it out in case somebody doesn't know. In episode 2, Simon goes to his father's apartment, and I guess they have like tea together or something. Like, I don't think it's full on dinner, but like they have like snacks or whatever. And that's when Simon first started stealing the drugs, right? But one thing I noticed is that Mika has a keyboard in his living room, and we actually see Simon like playing on it, which I thought was super interesting. And then later on, Mika asks Simon if he wants to like jam, and he says, like we used to when you and Sarah were little. And I think it kind of tells me that Mika probably passed on his love of music to Simon, and that's really sad, honestly. Like, it makes me feel really bad for Simon, because doing music was probably something he and his father did together, like it was their thing, maybe, and everything that happened, and now he doesn't have his father anymore. And he still loves music, but it's always going to be something he shared with his father, and it may be a little bit, like, not tainted, but like a little bit sad. You know, it will always have like that little tinge of sadness in, like, tucked away in the corner, and that really makes me feel bad. But I think it's, from that scene, it's pretty obvious that Mika is into music, like, a lot. Number 14. This one is more of a cinematography thing, which I don't usually notice, like, cinematography all that much. Like, I'm not an expert. I can appreciate a nice scene as much as the next person. But, though Young Royals has a beautiful cinematography, I mean, just the location for the boarding school is just incredibly beautiful, as we know, with the lake and everything. So they always have beautiful cinematography, but one thing about Young Royals, it's that it's a very handheld show. Like, the cameras, you can usually see the movement. It's not as bad as like shaky cam movies and stuff like that. Like, it's not like disorienting or anything, but you can tell when you watch a shot that it's a handheld camera, right? There's a jig to it, like a movement to it. So a lot of the scenes that stand out to me stand out because they're not jittery, you know, because they don't have that movement. Those scenes stand out from the rest. And one, which is my absolute favorite shot, like single shot of the entire series, and I can't tell just from watching it on TV whether it was actually static or like they had the camera on a tripod or something. And I would like to know, like, anybody, ask Edwin and Omar or something, because I never will. I don't talk to celebrities on Twitter, it freaks me out. But like, you know, feel free to ask them. But I would like to know, was the camera like on a tripod? Was it handheld, but just like really freaking steady handheld? Like, I don't know how it works, but when you watch this scene, it just looks like a straight up static shot. Like they had the camera on a tripod and then moved it along like rails on the ground. I don't know anything about making movies. I don't know how any of that works, but it's a gorgeous scene and it stands out because of that. It's just the way the shot is filmed. It's amazing. And it is that little scene, and I like to call it the strutting scene in my head, but it's basically when Simon and Willem are about, like, they've decided that Willem is going to visit Simon in Bjärstad instead when August decides to stay at school. Like, Willem asks and Simon's like, yeah, okay, let's go. And then they start walking out, but before they actually walk out of the building, there's a scene where they're walking down the hallway and they're just strutting. Like, they're just strutting. Like, man, I bet they feel like they own the world at that point. And I think it's amazing because the shot is so steady that it just absolutely enhances that feeling. I don't know. It's just a beautiful shot. You see Simon walking and he's putting his jacket on. And the camera is following him. And then Willy appears from the other side into the shot. And Simon looks back at him. And it's just gorgeous. And it stood out to me precisely because the camera seems so steady. And I don't know if it was steady, but it just looks so different from the other more handheld shots that it just stands out to me. And for me, like cinematographically speaking, it might be my favorite sequence of the entire season. It's just gorgeous. And it's not even outside, it's inside the building, but it tells you so much because it moves less, so you see that all the movement you're getting and the almost like pep to their steps is from them. It's not from the camera, it's not from the handheld jiggering thing, like movement, it's from them. It's in there. They just feel that confident and that good that they're going to hang out on the weekend. You know what I mean? It's like, I love that scene. I love it, and I don't think people appreciate it enough. So I just wanted to point it out just one more time. Number 15, we have arrived at episode 4, and I just want to say, in case you weren't sure, that yes, Ville does indeed delete Simon's contact from his phone. I saw it the first time and I was devastated. And I wasn't sure that it goes by so fast that I wasn't sure that I had seen him actually press the one that, and it's in Swedish, so I wasn't actually sure that he'd pressed the one that said delete. And then later on, he calls Simon. So you'd assume that a number is still in his phone. I kind of assumed that. I assumed that he had clicked cancel instead and the number remained. But no, I actually looked at it frame by frame. He absolutely positively presses the delete button. So like his contact was deleted. Ville just happened to remember Simon's number. That's how much he loves this guy. That's how into him he is. Cause like I barely remember my own number. Like I know my number, I know my mom's, and that's about it. But Ville, after knowing Simon like, what, a month or something, already knows his number by heart? Like, what kind of Zoomer does that? Is that a thing that happens with Zoomers? Because I thought nobody like remembered phone numbers anymore. I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that indeed I went through it frame by frame and he does delete the number, so... Yeah, number 16. This is a small one, but I want to point out because it's also one of my favorite moments in the show in episode 4 when Willem hugs the headmistress. And I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny, but much has been made about Willem's love language being, physical touch and whatever. So he likes hugging people. That's a thing. I don't contend that it's not, but that particular hug specifically breaks my heart every time because I feel like it might just be that his freaking older brother just died. Like the person he was closest to in the whole wide world just died, and I don't think anybody had hugged him up until that point. So the headmistress, who's by all means not really close to him at all, offers him some comfort, and he just immediately latches onto it, like, woof. And I feel so bad for him in that moment because you can see that he's just grasping desperately for any little bit of comfort that he can get, that he's not getting from his family, obviously. And it's devastating. So I think I wish more people appreciated that moment because I feel like it's a huge one for Ville. in particular. Also, while we're on the topic of the headmistress, I just want to say, later on, she offers August chocolate before telling him that he's expelled. And I'm like, that is a boss move. I appreciate that. It's hilarious. He's like, yeah, you won't be able to go back to school, but here, have some chocolate. It'll make you feel better. Did you not think of Remus Lupin? I'm just saying. Number 17. Simon seems to misplace his phone quite often for some reason. Like in episode 2, he stays behind in the car and his mother talks to him, but he stays behind in the car initially while Sarah goes off. He stays behind because he can't find his phone. He doesn't know where he put it. So he starts like patting all his pockets and stuff to try to figure out where it went. And then in episode 4, when he wakes up after bringing Ville back from the soccer field, he wakes up because his phone is like vibrating somewhere, but he can't find it also. So he starts like patting all his pockets and everything so he can find it. He eventually does get it, but like I think it's quite funny that that's just a thing that Simon does. Like it's a characteristic of the character or whatever, and I feel like that should be more of a thing in the fandom. I don't know. Number 18. Okay, so this is my favorite moment of the entire season. I love it to pieces, and I've already mentioned this, but it's worth repeating because I just feel like more people need to be thinking and talking and discussing this moment. Because it breaks my fucking heart, and it's beautiful, and I love it. And it's, of course, the how do you feel moment. When Simon asks Ville, how do you feel? And Ville says, better.
Hur mår du? Det är bättre.
My heart. I can't. Oh, just the way Ville closes his eyes. Like he's trying to like he's feeling it for the first time. Because he's been so down and so devastated since Eric died. And being in Simon's arms is literally, like being with Simon is literally the first time that he can just savor anything. And I could talk about this moment for like hours. I won't. But I wish more people were talking about this because it hurts me in the most beautiful way. You know what I mean. You know what that means. Number 19. Simon's room. These are just things I noticed upon rewatch that I thought were interesting. It doesn't really tell me anything necessarily about Simon, but I mean, I just think it's interesting to like see what people have in their room as decorations. You know, Ville's room looks like Marie Antoinette threw up on it. It's not very Ville, but he has pictures of his brother, so that's nice. But Simon, his room is he has like a lot of things that a teenager might have, and I think they're very interesting. Like for example, he has a lamp which might be a lava lamp or a glitter lamp. I'm not entirely sure. When I was a kid, I had a glitter. I still have it actually. It's still in my room. A glitter lamp, which is huge. It's in the shape of a rocket, and it's one of my favorite things in the world. I don't turn it on a lot, but like I always have it there. It still works. I just never turn it on. So that caught my eye straight away. I don't know if it's glitter or if it's lava though. It might be either. They all look the same. He also has a skateboard in his room, which I think is interesting because somehow Simon doesn't seem like a skateboarder to me, but I guess he could be. I don't know. I mean, I guess he doesn't have to conform to a stereotype, right? And he also has an electronic keyboard, which if you think back to the point that I made about Mike earlier, it makes sense that when Mike left, Simon would have gotten a keyboard for himself, you know? He likes music, so that's interesting. So yeah, little knickknacks that I noticed in Simon's room that I think are cool. Number 20. this one might also be a reach, but August posts the video on a site called kchan.net. That stood out to me because of everything that's been going on in the past few years with like the white nationalists and troll movements in general, the QAnons and whatever. I know that these Chan sites, I don't visit them personally, but I know they're supposed to be like anonymous message boards type thing. So people go there to be able to say shit and post shit anonymously, right? So it makes sense that August would post the video on an anonymous board. It makes total sense. But it also stood out to me because the connotations that the Chan sites have had for a while, like 4chan, 8chan, bunch of Chans, literally. Just, there's a bunch of those sites, and somehow they seem to be cesspools for the worst of the internet. Outside of the dark web, I guess. And I'm not saying that that necessarily means that August is like a white nationalist or a Q-head or a troll or like anything like that. I'm just saying it's interesting that he knew how to get to that site. I don't know. And you know, again, I don't think he is any of those things, but it's interesting that he's the only character that is sort of alluded to have had knowledge of that kind of stuff, I guess. Like, I don't think any of the teens routinely hang out in those types of boards or anything, but August knew where to go, right? So I think it's interesting. I don't know that it necessarily says much about August, and I'm not like assuming that everybody who hangs out at the Chan boards is a white nationalist or a troll or a Q-head or anything like that. Of course there are decent people in there, but like, it's just because of how big of a deal these boards have become with the radicalization movements online. It stood out to me, I guess. And then the funny part is, then I looked it up. First of all, when you go to kchan.net, you can actually like go there. You will only get a blank website that says yay. I think it's super fun. But you know what I also did? I googled kchan, and the first the first result that came from Google was an entry in Urban Dictionary for kchan, and it's literally, they tell you it's pronounced kchan. And let me read that to you because it's hysterical. Kchan, a representation of a deceased penis. Coined in the 17th century by a Chinese philosopher, Wangkok. The kchan was an illustrious example of what a penis shouldn't be. It was the metaphorical symbol used to indirectly describe a lack of manhood, a huge degree of promiscuity, and an unfortunate creation of evolution gone wrong. It is now used to describe someone or something who most likely has a diseased phallus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that is hilarious. Just, okay, the lack of manhood bit, you have to admit, it's that had to be on purpose, right? That had to be like, when the fact that what August is literally doing at that point when that term comes up on screen, that it means a lack of manhood, it can't be a coincidence. It can't be, right? Like, someone had to have googled this before they came up with that website. I don't know. I didn't know that was a thing. Obviously the Wangkok bit is like just fun, but like it made me laugh so hard that I googled it, and that was the first thing that came up because it makes so much sense in context. Oh my god, poor August. No, wait, I don't feel bad for him. He deserves it. Whatever. And now 21. 21 is just the fact that Simon buys a tabloid just so he can have a photo of Ville. Like, do you understand? I need more people to be talking about this. The boy obviously, he tells us as much, but he obviously cannot turn on his phone. Everything is a frenzy, right? I'm sure his notifications are exploding at the moment. Obviously, he cannot turn on his phone. So he has no contact with Ville. But he still needs to see... Oh, he still needs to see Ville. And he needs to, like, remind himself of Ville. So he goes and buys a freaking tabloid with his face on the cover. Just because Ville is on it as well. And he's just, like, he obviously he tries to read it when he buys it at first, but when he gets home, he doesn't even bother, like, trying to read what they're saying about him. It's not about him. He just wants to see Ville to make himself feel better. And it's like, fuck, what are you doing to my heart? Why would you? Oh my god. Why are more people not talking about that moment? It's devastating. Oh Jesus, it's amazing. 22. People have pointed out in episode 6 there's a moment when they're like in the dining room, they're having like breakfast or tea or lunch. I don't know what time of the day it is, but like the boys are in there in the Forest Ridge like dining room, and Henry mentions to Walter and their other friend who doesn't have a name, he mentions to them that they saw Ville and Simon's like acting weird during movie night, that it was weird that they were sitting together and stuff. And I didn't notice that until like 7 rewatches in, like it didn't click with me. But then when I watched episode 2 again, I realized that yeah, Walter and Henry were sitting like almost directly behind Ville and Simon, right? So it's totally plausible that they did indeed think it was weird that Simon and Ville were like so close all of a sudden. But the real interesting thing is that you can see both of them sitting there in the bag. So Walter is like here and Ville and Simon are in the middle, and then Henry is a little bit off to the side. So sometimes you see Henry, it depends on the angle, but they're not like close together. So when you see Walter most of the time. And Henry is more like off to the side, right? So the camera doesn't always catch him in every shot. But the real interesting thing is that when Ville freaks out about the hand holding, when Sarah sees them holding hands, Ville freaks out and runs out of the room. And when he does, you can see very clearly that Henry's not there. And he was there like a couple of seconds earlier, so like I don't know if he's like slumped over or something maybe, but I think it's also plausible that he just got up and like went to the bathroom or something, because you can't really see him there at that point. You only see Walter. And I think it's possible that Henry might have just gotten up and gone to the bathroom, and 100% he could have caught a peek of Ville and Simon actually holding hands as he left. I think he had the perfect angle. And I know there are a few stories out there that deal with like Henry figuring things out and figuring out that Ville and Simon had something before everybody else does, which I think is super interesting, and you should definitely look those up and read them, because I've read a few and they're all amazing. But I don't think anybody has ever done it so that he's figured it out at that exact moment, and I think it's very plausible. So like, even if I'm just like stretching things way too far, I think it's entirely possible that Henry knew, or at least had a suspicion at that point. I think it's like super plausible. So maybe you guys want to write something about that one. That would be great. I would enjoy it. Let me know if you do. Number 23. Just wanted to point out the parallels between episode 6 and episode 1. When in episode 1, Ville texts his mom to let him go home. And his mom's like, you'll get used to it, whatever. And then in episode 6, Ville texts Simon because he doesn't want to leave him. He wants to stay at Hitlersky. He doesn't want to go back to the castle, to the palace. And I think that is an amazing parallel that goes entirely unnoticed. And I think they did it on purpose, because Ville was almost very nearly in the same exact position every time for both of those scenes, and I think that's great. I see what you're doing there, Rushda. I love that. It's a great detail and it's a great parallel, and I love it. It tells you how much Ville has changed in just 6 episodes, and it's very succinct, very simple, and it works. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about that because it's such a like minuscule moment, but it really does say a lot to me. 24. This might be a stretch as well, but Sarah doesn't speak Spanish, and I know this. It stands out to me because my native language is Spanish, so I'm attuned to like listening in when any of them speaks in Spanish. And also I watched the show with the closed captions turned on, so the captions tell me when someone's speaking Spanish versus when someone's speaking Swedish. So I'm very attuned to the Spanish language talk in this. And Sarah doesn't speak Spanish even once. Like, she doesn't even say sí. She doesn't say anything in Spanish. Anything, even like the tiniest word, not at all. And I find that super weird because usually, I don't know if this is the same case for every bilingual person or polyglot or whatever, but like for me, when you speak to me in a specific language, my brain just automatically replies in that language. So if you're speaking to me in Spanish, I'm probably going to answer in Spanish automatically. But Sarah does not do that at all. Like, Linda speaks to her in Spanish and she just goes back to Swedish. And I know this might be a little bit more about Frida herself. I don't think she speaks Spanish. I know she says she's lived in Barcelona, but like, they don't speak Spanish in Barcelona. They speak a different language. So it might just be that she doesn't know Spanish, and that's fine. Like, she doesn't have to know Spanish necessarily. I'm not forcing her to do it, but I think even if it's like unintentionally, it kind of reinforces this point that Sarah feels somehow that she is or should be superior to, you know, her riff-raff family, I guess. And it's something that I think I caught on to the Spanish thing before I did catch on to the snobbiness in general that Sarah develops through the season, because I had missed it at the beginning. And it didn't really hit me how much she was like trying to pretend to be someone she's not until episode 6. But I had noticed the Spanish before. So I think it adds like an extra layer. It's like maybe she thinks, you know, her immigrant mother is not who she wants to be. Like, she wants to be Swedish or something. I'm not saying she's racist or anything, but like it's kind of a layer under that, you know, speaking in Spanish is like common, or, you know, for poor people or something like that, and she wants to be more than that, so she's going to pretend that she doesn't. I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it's just that Frida doesn't speak Spanish. Either would be fine, but I think it adds a little bit to the character, and I think it adds a layer of, okay, yeah, that makes sense, that I couldn't see before until I rewatched it, and then both things kind of melded together. That, yeah, Sarah is very hard trying to pretend to be someone she's not, because she wants to be of a higher status or something. And I think the Spanish thing goes hand in hand with that. I think it's super interesting. And then 25, the fourth wall break. I said I was going to talk about this, and I really have to, because much ado has been made about what the fourth wall break is and what it means, because we get one at the beginning and one at the end of the season, right? So it bookends the season very nicely. I have watched a bunch of essays on this. I have read Tumblr posts on this, and I don't disagree with any of it, really. I think it's all possible. I think maybe there are different kind of factors involved in why they decided to make this be a thing. I've heard, for example, that it might be like a meta thing, where Ville is basically letting us know that we're watching into his life, and that it's like almost like a paparazzi type moment. Like it's a commentary on the idea that we get our entertainment from watching other people's lives, and that's not okay. I've heard that, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, most of the stuff I've heard about this makes a lot of sense, and I don't think that it's necessarily one reason why they did this, but for me, after watching the show nearly 11 times, I think it's about agency. I think it's about Ville's agency. I think he does the fourth wall break. He looks directly at the camera when there's a change in his feeling of control over his own life. At the beginning, he does it after his speech when they're recording him for TV, and he's basically like accepting his mother's plan for him. He can't do anything about it. He's going to be sent to Hillerska. He doesn't want to go, but he can't do anything to stop it. So I feel like at that moment, he feels like all of his control has been just ripped away from him. Like, there's nothing he can do. He has no agency to control over his life at that point at all. And you can see it in his eyes that he looks really like freaked out. He doesn't even look angry, not really. It's just he looks really freaked out by what's going to happen. Like, he doesn't want to go to Hillerska. So I think the one at the beginning is about him losing agency. And then the one at the end, which is why I love this, the one at the end is basically the moment when he says, fuck it, these people are not here for me. The only one who cared about me was Simon, and I lost him. This is bullshit. I'm gonna start doing what I think is right. So I think that last fourth wall break was Ville taking back his agency. And holy shit, he's going to unleash fucking hell on everybody in season 2, and I think it's amazing. Because he looks really pissed in that one. Like, he looks really freaking angry. And I think that's good. I think he deserves to be. And I hope he burns the whole place down. Not literally, but like figuratively. He burns the monarchy down. Like, for sure. They need to change and be reborn from the ashes. Because the way the monarchy is going at this point, not a good thing. But like, Ville can make it better. And I think that's what he's trying to tell us by looking at the camera, is that he's fucking sick of this game that they've been playing with him for the entirety of the season. He's fucking sick of not being able to have any control over his own life, and he is taking that control back. That's what the fourth wall break means to me. It's about agency. And I think, while we're at it, I think that the song that plays in the background in episode 6 actually supports my point. Like, seriously, while this is all going on, Elias is singing, and the lies they will hurt you no more. Human kindness deserts you no more. That's Ville taking back his kindness, his life, getting away from the lies. That's him. That's a decision he's making. And I think it's about agency. I think that's what the fourth wall break means. And I am very eager to see if they continue that pattern in the next season. I hope they do. I think it's a thing that Young Royals does that should be repeated every season, honestly. But yeah, I definitely think it's about agency, and I think it's exquisite. I think it works perfectly. And now, one extra entry, just because I can, because this makes me laugh every time I see it, and I cannot believe more people have not pointed it out. But in episode 6, when Ville is, you know how they do that thing where they text each other even though they're in the same location? It's annoying, I know. In real life, I would be annoyed, but in the show, it's cute. It's adorable. Well, in episode 5, after they've had their fight, so now Lucia is about to start, and they're like outside, like practicing and whatever, and Ville, they're all dressed up in the thing with this crown, the flower crown or whatever, in their head. Ville tries to approach Simon to tell him that he needs to talk to him, to tell him about Alexander, and he actually texts him. So they're like standing apart, and there's like a fire in the middle or something. So they're standing apart, and Ville texts him tells him, I need to talk to you, it's about Alexander. And Simon sees the text, reads it, and then looks at Ville. And Ville looks at him. And then goes away. But as he goes, he does this thing that I've been calling his spin escape. It's the most awkwardest spin of all time, and it's so quintessentially Ville that I just, every time I see it, I laugh. And here you go, it's here, and I don't understand why more people aren't pointing it out, because every time I see it I laugh, and it's ridiculous, and I love it. And him is the giant dork, the most awkward baby giraffe in all of television, and I freaking love it. I adore it. So yeah, I just wanted to point it out because it makes me laugh. And that's it for this list. I've been talking for a long time, and this is probably gonna be a long video. Anyway, what can I do? There's a lot to be said about this show, and I love it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you have any other details that I haven't mentioned? I know there's a bit about Ville picking up like his brother's watch after Eric died. I think a lot of people are talking about that, so I didn't include it in my list. But like little details like that absolutely make the show like 100 times better than it already is. So did I miss any? Let me know in a comment. And while you're down there, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like my stuff, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always happy to see people liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. It really does help me a lot, you know. YouTube algorithms, we want to grow the channel. It really helps. I will be doing more Young Royals content as I go, probably, so like stick around. I will definitely be here to comment on season 2 when it happens, so you want to subscribe. Believe me, if you like Young Royals, you want to subscribe. This is a Young Royals appreciation channel, basically. I'm just saying. I don't know what I'm gonna do next time, but we'll see. I haven't finished watching My Hero Academia season 5, but I hope I will soon. I don't know how much time I will have because I will be flying back home for the first time in 2 years. Thank you, pandemic, soon. So I don't know if I'll have much time to like actually make another video after this, but hopefully. I don't know. If not, then I will get back to it probably from home when I'm there, so you might see like the background change and stuff. Let me know what you guys think, what you guys like. As usual, remember you can follow me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram at girlsareweird with underscores between the words, and I am on Tumblr at girlsareweird with hyphens between the words. You can find a Facebook page for this vlog at facebook.com/FreakingNarnia. And as usual, you can visit my main website at FreakingNarnia.com/vlog. That's VLOG. All my videos are up there in case you missed any and want to catch up. You can just do a search, browse around, it's all in there, so be sure to visit. Also remember that I have a Redbubble store where I make art based on my favorite quotes from my favorite fandoms, and then you can use that art to print on different kinds of merchandise such as t-shirts, coffee cups, computer covers, that sort of stuff. I do expect I will be making some Young Royals art, so you might want to tune in for that and, you know, visit, maybe purchase something if you're in the mood. It really does help me a lot. And of course, if you'd like to have these episodes of Talks from Freaking Narnia as podcasts, that is audio only, then what you want to do is subscribe to my Patreon page, which has all of those episodes go up to my Patreon on the very same day they go up on YouTube as video. So be sure to do that, and remember I have different tiers. You can subscribe to a different tier and maybe get access to some extra videos like the one I did last time, which was a Digimon 2020 review. They're all Patreon exclusives, so you want to subscribe to that tier, and you know, for a small sum of money every month, it will help me out and you will get access to those extra videos. If you'd rather not do the subscription thing, however, that's fine. It's totally okay. You can also make a one-off donation via my Ko-fi page, which is also linked down in the description. Just make sure that you tell me on the note with the donation, let me know which video, which extra video you want to watch, and I'll get back to you with an access link probably. It'll work out. It's way easier than subscribing every month, I guess. So if that's more your thing, go ahead. But everything helps. We want to grow this channel, so anything you can give me, seriously, like, don't feel obligated or anything, but it really does help me. And yeah, that's about it from me today. I will see you guys next time with another video from all the way in freaking Narnia. Bye bye. Hey everybody, Carla here. This is my vlog where I gets black and blue until... Have I been calling him Simon? Nah, whatever. After Patrick Bateman, you know, her question is...